The race to 5G is on, and the battle for talent is getting fierce. Welcome to 5G Talent Talk with Carrie Charles, a podcast dedicated to helping you face the future workforce head on. Navigate this challenging talent landscape with innovative strategies to attract, retain, and engage people in this new world of work. Only here on 5G Talent Talk with Carrie Charles, CEO of Broadstaff Talent Solutions.
Hi, I'm Carrie Charles, and I want to welcome you to this episode of 5G Talent Talk. I am so thrilled to have with me a special guest today. It is Dan Zygmunt, and he is the new VP of Telecom for Sitetracker. Dan, thanks so much for being with me today on 5G Talent Talk.
Carrie, thanks for having me. Appreciate the invitation. Looking forward to talking today.
Yes, I'm especially interested to hear about your journey and your transition and, what took you from where you were to the tech side of telecom, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. Carrie, great question. It's been like just this incredible journey. For me, I started off at Ball State University. I picked up a computer science degree there. I was always into tech kind of early on. Even throughout my childhood. And there was a period of time during one of the summers at the university, I was actually working for this company called Harman Glass, and we were deploying this hospital up in Kalamazoo, Michigan. And we were building this beautiful rotunda. I was this glazier, and we're putting, big pieces of glass, 150 feet up in the air. And that was my first opportunity to get exposed to project management and kind of deploying things out in the field perspective, working along with the field crews. And that really kind of caught my attention and said, you know what, I want to do this. I want to, kind of build infrastructure, but more from a technology side, from a network side. So finished up my computer science degree, went on to do some graduate work at the university there as well, at the Center for Information and Communication Sciences, and got a really good understanding of the network architecture on how we deploy, not only from how the signal traverses the architecture, but also the human communication aspect of it and how we communicate in deploying infrastructure from a services perspective. So did some interviews and ran into a guy named David Sharkey. He was working at Telamon, which is in Indianapolis. And he goes, what do you want to do in your career, Dan? I go, well, I want to build networks. He goes, okay, that's good. We do that here. And went on for a little while and didn't hear back from him, nearing graduation. I called Telamon up and I talked to the receptionist, and the receptionist goes, hi, who's this? I'm Dan. I goes, can you page Dave Sharkey? I'm trying to get a hold of him. He goes, sure. So this is time when, there's a page, you can page people's offices, right? Yeah. So they page Dave. And Dave picks up the phone. He goes, hi, this is Dave. He goes, hey, Dave, this is Dan, Ball State. He goes, hi, Dan. And he goes, yeah, I want to build networks. Can I come work for you? He goes, wait, did you just page me? And I'm like, yeah. I'm part of being relentless, right? So he goes, yeah, come on board. Let's do it. So came down, started for Telamon, and the first opportunity I had was to work in central offices in the network. So one of our clients was Verizon, and, I was working outside, the summer at the Bronson Hospital. I go, well, this is the exact opposite of working outdoors. So I'm working inside central offices, getting my hands dirty out there with the crews, running cables, putting relay racks in, dropping power into BDFBs. And got a really firsthand experience of, project managing again, right? Managing revenue, cost, field teams, and really enjoyed it. Next, Dave kind of came through and said, hey, we want to get, we're working on an outside plant opportunity for AT&T. And he goes, were you interested? I go, well, yeah, I get to work outside. So I'm good with that, right? So I got experience on the outside plant side of it. And then at one point, Telamon was looking to get into the wireless space. So I helped start the wireless division within there, and then ran into some entrepreneurs that were building high-speed wireless broadband to rural America. And I was helping them with, some of the business case aspect of it. It was there's costs, right, in terms of how you deploy that network from a services perspective. And they said, hey, why don't you join our team and let's go do that. So at a young age, kind of got the entrepreneurial kick, raised some, raised some angel investment, was bringing high-speed wireless broadband there. We sold that business a couple of years later, and reached out to another one of my mentors, Joe Sanzo at SAC Wireless, and asked him, had just sold the business. What are you guys up to? He goes, we're in the process of changing our customer approach, going from more of a tier 2 to a tier 1, working directly for the network operators. And said, would you like to help us do that? And I said, yeah, let's do it. Right. So employee number 100 over there, and was really a part of all the transformation that goes from, really early kind of 100 people to, tapping up to, I think 3,000 people at one time, and all the people and the processes that go associated with that. So like throughout that whole journey, just had an incredible opportunity to touch like all aspects of the network and what it takes to deploy. So kind of central office, outside plant, fiber, small cells, tower, DAS. So kind of got this, this unique, wide lens of the industry. And then, kind of fast forward kind of where we are today, just understanding of everything that's happening in the ecosystem today around investment, right? And we're seeing in the critical infrastructure, we're seeing at the government level, and we see what's just happening. And I really wanted to take the opportunity to say, how can I help, other firms that have to take on so much work? How can we really improve their operation and help digitize that, right? In order for them to be able to take on more work. Because I feel like what we do here is really meaningful, right? I mean, we connect people with their families, right? We build a first responder network. And, we make it easy for groceries to like land at our house, right? And packages.
I like that. I just had groceries land at my house last night.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
It's incredible, right? So, so now I'm kind of on this next chapter, joined SiteTracker, right? Because I felt throughout that whole journey, I was always looking for like this incredible tool that made it easier to kind of connect people with how do we deploy. And I'm here at SiteTracker. We're a SaaS company, built in the cloud, designed to build infrastructure, and we really help project teams, asset owners, right, and teams in the field, do the job the best that they can. Yeah.
So how long has SiteTracker been in business now?
I think we've been around since about, I think it's like 2014 or 2015 or so. Yeah.
That's great, because I've heard so much about SiteTracker. And it's exciting to go a little deeper here. There is this massive shift taking place in the world today, the digital transformation, if you will. Yeah. So how will this shift really help companies to drive productivity, to accelerate growth? How is this going to help companies? And I know this is an obvious answer, but I want to look at this from a view of you being inside of a SaaS company now, coming from telecom.
Yeah. I mean, I think, as much as this, as a U.S. challenge, I think it's a global challenge, as well. I mean, I've been on since coming over here. We've done some international calls with some other firms over there, and it's really a global challenge, right? And I think the best way to do this is really looking at, how we optimize the fundamentals and how we execute. I think we've been accepting this status quo for too long, and it's been like affecting our balance sheets, and it's been affecting our work-life balance. And I think there are some, firms out there today that are like early adopters and recognizing this, whether it's like the Tillmans, the Ericssons, SAC Wireless is an example of that, Exonet, Zayo, Cox Communication, Lumen, Vodafone, right? So there's a lot of adopters who say, hey, we need to solve this, right? And we need, technology to be able to do that. And they're reaping the benefits of that. And I think what the opportunity is to really be that skills equalizer, that translator that gets everybody on the same page. So when we look at the fundamentals, it's really, how do we optimize our forecasting and aligning expectations across the full value chain of, how that infrastructure gets spent all the way down to the people in the field, taking away kind of educated guesses and making data-driven decisions. and really just ensuring that alignment. So as implementing, a software system like SiteTracker, you're really digitizing your operation. This is all about how you optimize your processes, then you would standardize them, and then we want to automate the hell out of them, right?
Right.
And we do that within SiteTracker as an example by, standardizing the milestones across the entire program. We look at creating that single repository for data and documents. So it's all within that kind of view of that site level, and then assigning accountability all the way down the site level, so everybody understands kind of what their role is throughout that value chain, whether it's on the asset acquisition side, whether it's on that construction aspect, the integration, or even the final test. So everybody kind of has that view of who's responsible for what, right? And then what we want to do is we want to measure that production, and then make it transparent throughout the entire organization. And I think when you do that, companies are going to be able to take on more work. They're going to be able to drive, cost out of their business. And I think their margins are going to increase as a result of that, and thus kind of improving your balance sheets. Yeah.
So I agree 100%. How did COVID really accelerate this need to digitize processes for companies?
I think one of the things to think about there is that it kind of pushed us in an environment where we all become more technologists, I would say, right? I mean, if we look at the environment that we're in today, right, the adaptability around being able to use like the software that are the tool, Zooms, or going into telemedicine versus going out of the office, right? I think that it's enabled us to be, kind of push that envelope even more there. Yeah.
Yes. No. How, the bottom line is, and we all know this, that there are not enough people to deploy 5G. In fact, many companies, and I've talked about this over and over in episodes, that companies are actually turning down work right now. You said it, because there simply are not enough people to do the work. So how will digitization help solve this problem?
Yeah, I mean, I think that goes kind of what I was talking about around in terms of, making it, in an environment where we optimize those fundamentals. I think that's really what I was kind of focused on there, around how that digitization helps to do that, and that we're able to take on more work by enabling that piece of it. Yeah.
So tools like SiteTracker, that's the amazing solution that's going to help us do more with less people. And it sounds exciting. There's a whole other side of this, though, which is the more that gets automated, the less people we need. And then what happens to the people, right? So what are your thoughts on this as we move along through this, this automation, digitization, and how it's going to affect the workforce, the telecom workforce specifically?
Yeah, I mean, I think kind of what you're outlining there is like, is tech intimidating, right? Yeah. And right. And I think that it really shouldn't be intimidating. I think, I was saying this before, like we're all like these technologists, right? We see all this technology that's around us and we're utilizing it. And I think it's really about, change management is the issue, right? And on how do we change associated with that? So when we look at, how do we solve it? I think, SiteTracker is an example of a successful change management, right? We're managing $25 billion of assets. We have 25,000 different users, and our adoption rate is 94%, right? Which is really incredible. And I think that's the reason why, is because we've created a system that's intuitive, right? I mean, it's recognizable, right? I mean, I was on this SiteTracker certification program when I first came on, and you could just feel the relief coming off people, because it was like, oh, somebody finally, figured out this is what we were looking for. An example of that is like our trackers, right? Web-based spreadsheets, right? And I think there's always this challenge around, integrating new software in, right? And I think we have an approach around, this. We create a sandbox, people can come play in. We have ready-made project templates. So you're not really having to start from scratch, kind of clicks, not codes, that certification program. We also will partner with you on our business plan where we outline that value and then we want to measure it. And I think that's really what I'm excited about being here, is that to really create a solid partnership between our customers and Sitetracker.
You hit the nail on the head, because I'm going through this in my company. I think every company goes through this at some point when you're looking at your tech stack, and it's adoption, right? It's getting your people to adopt the software and use it, because it's absolutely useless if people don't use it. And there's how do you get old dogs to learn new tricks? And again, this isn't an old joke. I'm in my 50s, so I I could be one of those old dogs. But it's how do you, and I hear you when you say that it's intuitive, something about a sandbox, which sounds really simple, and I like that language. But looking at these people who've done things the same way for so long, I mean, especially in telecom, how do you get them to shift?
Yeah, I think from a shift perspective, I think we just, reskilling is a part of this, right? And I think in order to, enable that, that job security, right, you have to be able to adopt. And I think we kind of walk through the pro around, great businesses have to innovate, right? And I mean, at the end of the day, I think that when we want to move, make that progress right in towards enabling that, understanding that technology plays an important role, that is very critical.
And you're actually a success story for going back to the question before. You're a success story for this reskilling and upskilling, and taking this world that's moving toward digitization and automation, and what's going to happen to me and what's going to happen to my job. I mean, we hear a lot about upskilling and reskilling and keeping your skills current and learning something new. And you're a perfect example of this in action, right?
That's absolutely right. I think we all understand that, we constantly need to assess the effectiveness and how we execute, right? And, technology is going to play an important role around that. And, I think, an example that if you look at like your cell phone, right? At one point, email and your phone was disconnected, right? And I remember this time I was getting on a plane one time, and the customer said, "Well, I can't get a hold of you for 4 hours," right? And the next thing you know, I landed. I had to get a phone with the email on me, right? You just have to adjust, and you got to pivot. And I think it has an opportunity to improve progress as a result of that. Yeah.
So what makes Sitetracker different or better than your competitors?
I think the interesting is a great question. And, I don't think it's so much like other softwares are our competitors as folks that you mentioned, kind of like that want to stay in their current mode of operation, right? And if you look at, firms that want to grow, that's one way that you have to do in order to really grow your business. I think we have this philosophy around, how we deploy and we create a foundation of people and processes. That's a key differentiator there, right? I think there's a ton of upside there. If you think of like merger and acquisitions as an example, or firms that are like looking to sell, knowing where all your assets are at, knowing the structural integrity of your tower, what's the availability out there, will help with the valuation of your firm, right? And if there's an unknown, there won't be that discount. So when you have to go through due diligence, being able to outline here it is, and there's a high credibility about it, I think you could get a better value around that. I think the other opportunity is we have Sitetracker and AI, and we also have machine learning. So I think, looking at like what happened and what could happen is extremely powerful, right? I mean, you have this repository now throughout your implementation of where all your data is, and you can take a look at it in ways you never have before. So when you're going out and you're forecasting, your project plan, understanding, how did this market perform versus this one, or the cycle times, or the jurisdictional challenges that you may be running into, or who's the better PM versus the different general contractor, and how do you make those decisions? Is going to be about, algorithms that are going to help guide our decisions. And I think we're just going to see a lot of accuracy improvement as a result of that.
I heard you say that really it isn't about another piece of software as a competitor. Really what it's about is someone doing the things they used to do, or doing it the way that they used to do it versus adopting this new and improved method and model. And then I know you got a lot of attention when you said increased valuation. I'm sure that's ears perked up there as well. But it really is in going to that next level. And I was in a conference last week for staffing in my industry, and the entire week was about the digital transformation, digitizing your business. I mean, it was, I couldn't go to one session out of, literally we had 5 days of sessions. Not one session did not mention this, changing and moving and transformation. So it's coming, it's here, and we need to get on the bus or be left behind, right?
I'm telling you, Carrie, I think every COO, CIO, and CTO are sitting together in a room right now solving this. It's happening right now because the amount of investment that's being made is they have to be prepared. And I think everybody understands the challenge of if you take on too much work and you don't have that foundation ready, you are going to fail. And I think this is an incredible piece about it. I mean, I love what you were saying about just how you have to adopt, right? I mean, I'll give you an example. I'm a big runner, right? I enjoy running. And for a long time, I was kind of in the mid pack, right? I'm a mid pack person. It's like, how do I get faster? Right. And your mind says run faster, but your body's got to run faster, right? So what do you have to do? You have to change your training regimen, right? All of a sudden you just got, climb more stairs, right? Or do speed work, right? And all of a sudden you start adopting those new activities and you start moving up inch by inch, right? You have to change what you do. And I think it's so transparative. And I think if we apply that from a business perspective here, how we do this, I think the results will be extraordinary, and we're going to solve the challenge ahead of us. Yeah.
This reminds me of the story where a man is chopping down a tree, and he just keeps chopping and chopping and chopping and chopping, and it's just taking him forever to make any progress with this tree. And then someone walks up to him and says, "Hey, George, why don't you sharpen your axe?" And he stops, right? And he goes over and he sharpens his axe and then hits it 3 times and the tree comes down. But the key here is stopping to sharpen your axe, because, with all the tech that we've adopted, and, we've been through our own transformation really with AI software, with staffing. I mean, we've got all kinds of different, new SaaS products right now in Broadstaff, but we have had to stop and take the time to learn it, adopt it, and integrate it. And I think that's the piece but once you do, your axe is sharper and everything works better, right?
Sometimes you don't really know how challenging it is till you really see how better it could be.
Right. I like that.
And then you sit back and you reflect, you're just like, how did we ever do this before? And then you're also making statements like, thank goodness we did this, right? I mean, I've lived this, right? I've been in the environments. I mean, I know there's a bunch of out there that they're sitting there and they're just like, wow, we're so glad we did this. We implemented this because we would never be able to do it. Right. Our customers are happier. Right. I mean, the environment, your culture is happier, right? Because they understand and you have an opportunity, you can set expectations, right? Everybody has alignment for that. And a lot of people, I think a lot of challenges are, people understand what they're supposed to do and how they got to do it,
Something else comes to mind, and I'll have you put on your sales hat for a minute, that we're, as business leaders, are bombarded with SaaS products, right? I mean, I must get, I don't know how many LinkedIn messages every day.
Incredible. Yeah,
I hear this same, the same conversation. It will, change your life, save you money, more done, less time, this and that, and all this great stuff. But if I keep adding to this tech stack, and my monthly cost just keeps going up and up and up, and how do we choose and know that, let's say, out of everything we have available, SiteTracker is going to be the project management tool, the tool that I need? How do we choose that from all the noise out there with these SaaS products?
Yeah, I mean, I think the differentiator there is that if we look at what we're responsible for doing, right? We're responsible for deploying critical infrastructure, right? Whether that's, small cells, tower, fiber, right? Whatever that may be. And I think to be really successful is you have to have a piece of software that was purpose built for that infrastructure, right? I mean, there's tons of tools out there that I think will, analyze data for you, right? But you have to make the correlation between what do you want it to analyze, right? And I think we purposely built it for this platform, and we've been building it for a amount of time. It has been field tested, right, through all our different customers along the ways, and it's been constantly innovate on it, right? We take that feedback. So I think when you're looking at, like, if I have to deploy a physical, in this network, I want something that is made purposely and is intuitive from that perspective. And I think that will help with the adoption, and it's going to help deploy it, right? And when you're able to extract the information you add, it has all those different layers that's required to do it.
Yeah. And I appreciate that. The other piece of it is that our competitors are doing it. And, if we don't, and, like I said, we don't get on the bus, then we get left behind. So I think that's a critical piece. Let's switch gears a little to the people aspect.
Sure.
Because there's this IT telecom convergence happening right now. It's, the people that are needed to build these, virtualized networks are completely different than the people that were needed even 2 years ago in our industry. So when hiring for Sitetracker, do you look at, because I know there's a lot of people who don't have those skills, and there's also a great talent shortage in IT right now. So when hiring, do you look for skill and experience, or do you hire character and train skill?
Yeah, I think you're spot on, right? There's a huge convergence happening right now, right? I mean, we look at kind of that network architecture outline, and that is even extending, right? We have to look at smart cities is an example. We got to look at, we're trying to solve, get to a carbon neutral environment by 2015, right? And looking at how to, from our perspective is that, and I don't think we don't really compromise on either, right? If you want to hire and build a great company, you need both, right? So I think, leveraging that is extremely critical. And I think we have an environment where, we work across the entire landscape. So if you have experience project managing, fiber, I think that's translatable to small cell, that's translatable to tower, and can be outreached into, the other ecosystem that's out there with smart cities or energy, for an example. Yeah.
Yes, it sounds like that many skills in telecom will translate into that, that IT or tech space. What advice would you give? Because we get quite a few people, not a ton right now, but I know this is going to be even more and more, but we do get people who come to us, candidates that are looking to make that transition from the traditional telecom space, maybe into more of a tech role, into that 5G tech world. What advice would you give? Because I know you've made that transition.
Yeah, I think the opportunity there, and I think it's something I did when I came over here, was really kind of try to capture the challenges that you kind of face as you were in that role, right? Whether and how you can kind of bring that into tech from maybe shaping the landscape of what that product looks like. Right. So, an example of that may be we're looking at, companies today are, maybe they're in the building towers, but they want to get into fiber, or they want to get into small cells, right? Because there's this whole convergence that's happening that you mentioned about, right? So I think as you look at kind of the experience you had making those, deployments, how can you leverage that skill that you had into a product? Like, what would you want to have, wish that one thing could do, right? So you can kind of take all those kind of related elements that you have throughout the course of their journey, right? And adopt it and say, man, I really wish we could have done this, right? And you can bring that and then, look at putting that on a roadmap as an example.
Right. That's good advice. So let's talk culture. What is it like to work at Sitetracker?
I tell you, it's pretty incredible. The energy is off the chart here. The intellect is off the chart. We're very aggressive as well, right? I think we understand the challenge we're trying to solve, and there's a holistic, passion about that. And it's incredible. I mean, I'm like looking at, like, I got my coffee mug over here. I mean, the values, I think, really resonate as well. So, if, pursue relentlessly, focus mechanically on the customers, care deeply, think and act boldly, and we're committed to diversity and inclusion. I mean,
wait, let's see the coffee cup. So you have that written on the Sidetracker coffee cup. Look at that. I want one of those for Broadstaff. I love that.
It's great. I mean,
and you keep it in front of you all the time. That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's always, as you go out through your day, it's always like, it's great to just, think about those values, right? Because your community is so many different people. How do you, put yourself with them, and how do you communicate? Because pursue relentlessly. I think it wasn't for that, I probably wouldn't have ended up with that first job. I probably, who knows where I would have gone. Right. And you do have to care deeply, because there's so many people that we interact with, every day. Right. And everybody's trying to accomplish something. Everybody has work life that they're trying to, solve. Right. And at the end of the day, motivation is a huge piece of that. Right. And you have to be thoughtful and caring about that. Yeah.
Are you remote as a company? Are you partial remote? Are there remote opportunities? I know that's really a hot topic for many candidates these days, especially in tech and IT.
Right. Yeah. Like right now we're remote. There recently just this kind of a survey came out, based on kind of what's happening, right? Do we think we may head back into the offices, or what that may look like? But right now we're remote. I'm certainly remote. Yeah.
You're in Chicago. I haven't heard the train yet.
You haven't heard it. Yeah. It's gone by a couple of times. It's got to maybe find a way to muffle it a little bit. Yeah.
The new world we live in. No, that's great. And the good news is with, people have figured out that we can do so much remote, where, before it was that we had to be in an office, and that's a whole other conversation, but that's exciting. It's exciting. It's great to hear about your culture. I know that your founder CEO, is just phenomenal, brilliant individual. And I'm excited for your growth, very much so. So are you hiring, in conclusion? If so, what types of roles are you hiring for? Where can we find out about open jobs? And Sidetracker in general, for people who want to learn more about Sidetracker.
It's been amazing. We haven't missed a beat. The one thing I love about this industry that we've been in is that we constantly challenge ourselves, right? And get out of our comfort zone and continue to just drive forward, right? And there's been a resilient industry, and it's been incredible. For us, we've grown 237% over the last 2 years. We had the largest pipeline I think we've ever had. So it's super exciting. And the answer is yes, we're hiring across all business units, whether it's sales, marketing, products, implementation. You can find us on www.sitetracker.com. There's a ton of openings. Come join us. We're doing excellent things there. We're really looking to, make a great improvement to, how we work and live here. Yeah.
Yeah. And the world in general. So it sounds exciting. And then the last thing, you are in other verticals as well, besides telecom.
We are. That's right.
Yeah.
So, kind of like just, we talked about, kind of that architecture around the network, expanding into energy is a huge one right now, right? We see electric cars. We're trying to get to a carbon neutral environment by 2015. At the end of the day, it's about getting, that form factor out to some physical location, right? And whether you're selling a radio device or an IoT device, it's a box for for energy, an example. And I think there's gonna be a lot of them.
There will. And if for those of you listening who would like to know about all the different verticals that are available through Sidetracker, and everything that's going on, the great work that you're doing, then you can go to, again, what is that website?
www.sitetracker.com.
Simple, very simple. Okay. Yeah. Dan, thanks so much for being on the show. This has just been exciting. I love talking tech, and had fun today. So thank you.
Thanks, Carrie. I really appreciate it.
Take care.
Thank you for listening to another informative episode of 5G Talent Talk, brought to you by RCR Wireless News, Telecom Careers, and Broadstaff Talent Solutions. As we advance into the future, we promise to bring you the resources you need to navigate this ever-changing landscape of 5G to help you attract, retain, and engage people in this new world of work. To access the show notes or leave a review, visit broadstaffglobal.com. Until next time.